just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
All right. I am back from my travelings. So good to see everybody. I missed everybody. Hello, Maestro. Hello, Melanie. No, I can't, Doris, because I didn't see it. I just got back into the city today. I missed it. I've been taking some time off. Also scheduling some stuff. We have some interesting things coming up even this week. So stay tuned. Hello, Audrey. Tater, thank you for moderating. Hello, Second Beach Gal. So what I heard was it was very short, Doris. I'm talking about Charlie Kirk shooter's hearing today, and that he wasn't even on camera. He didn't even make an appearance. That's what I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it myself. I'm just curious who's paying his salary. But let's stay on topic. Topic for today is Karen Read, and leading up to her murder of John O'Keefe, what was going on in the relationship. And we've gotten some insight from my interview with John O'Keefe's friend from childhood till when he was murdered by Karen Read, that Karen Read, that last Christmas Eve, so that's Christmas Eve 2021, that Karen Read was isolating John O'Keefe from his friends. And I don't know how many of you remember this story, but let me just share it. We have some jaw-dropping revelations concerning that Christmas. Stay tuned. So this is just an appetizer. Stay tuned, guys, because you're going to want to hear. You're going to want to hear what I have in store, and we're going to return to it in another episode. It is a jaw dropper. Okay, here's this. What happened on the last Christmas? What happened there? Why didn't you guys celebrate Christmas Eve together?
So this was deep into COVID. This is like 18 months into COVID. So most people had kind of found the level footing with the virus.
So Brendan Kane, this short kind of jumps in a little too early, but to give you some background, Brendan Kane, along with his wife, so this is John O'Keefe's friend from his childhood, along with his wife, with Brendan's wife and their daughter, would spend Christmas Eve with John O'Keefe and his family and his niece and nephew, who John O'Keefe was a guardian for, Kaylee and Patrick. But the last Christmas of John O'Keefe's life, Brendan Kane was disinvited. And here's the story behind it. Take a listen.
Iris, but we were set to go over there as we had the past 4 or 5 years. And I got a call from Johnny about a couple, maybe 2 or 3 days before. And he said, his exact words were, hey, I got a little problem. There's some concern about COVID, and it's going to be immediate family only. I was like, oh, seriously? Okay. All right. Didn't know. And the irony of that, the story was that at the time Johnny related to me, he said it was actually Paul's wife who had the issue with immediate family only. Had Johnny never been murdered, I never would have found this out. But since it came to light after his killing, it turns out that it was not Paul's wife, Erin, that had any problem with COVID. She was one of the people that was least concerned about COVID. It was Karen. And, we had just been out with them. And, the way I justify it is Johnny wanted to kind of protect our view of Karen. And if we said it was Karen that had the issue, maybe our opinion would change a little bit. But the key to that, and the reason why it hits home, is that I can distinctly remember my daughter crying for 10, 15 minutes that we're never gonna be able to go to Johnny's again after he died. We could never go back over there on Christmas Eve, and for that year until I figured it out, I was blaming Erin, and it was Karen the whole time. So now in hindsight, you look at with all the other behavior and it's just additional red flags that I missed.
Okay. So Karen Reed disinvites, to just recap there, make sure that Brendan Kane, his wife and his child, are not there, and that the only ones that are there for that Christmas Eve celebration or get together, whatever you'd like to call it, is John O'Keefe's family and Karen Reed's family. And Karen Reed had taken hosting duties over, totally taken over hosting duties. I'll have more to say on it in a future episode. But we do know that on Christmas Day, 2021, Karen Reed spent Christmas Day alone in Mansfield. So things were not, I think we can infer from that things were not the rosy picture that Karen Reed and her lawyers painted of her relationship with John O'Keefe. Even going back further, and then they went to Aruba. So after Karen Reed spends Christmas alone, then they take, 5 days later, they're taking a trip to Aruba together. And we'll listen to, again, we're going to revisit that again. But Karen Reed did not care about COVID. She had been out in November. This is the first time and the only time Brendan Kane met Karen Reed due to COVID. They went to a hockey game together. So Brendan Kane, Karen Reed, John O'Keefe all went to a hockey game together. And that's where she drank just pretty much continuously from the afternoon into the 10:30 at night. And he said she was just, it was, you could not tell at all that she had any drinks. And he called her a professional drinker, which is what I've been saying all along when people say she was so drunk or she was so jealous. I don't believe she was a jealous person, but I do believe that she accused John O'Keefe of jealousy to exert power and control. Once you accuse someone of wrongdoing, you're in a power position and they're on the back foot, on the defensive. And that's a technique that Karen Reed used. You're cheating on someone. You can hear in the messages after she reversed into him. You're effing someone else. And in Aruba, she accused John O'Keefe of kissing Etta Sullivan, the Sullivan sisters. We'll listen to their testimony. But it's a great way, by creating these kinds of scenes, it's a great way to keep John O'Keefe's friends away from him. It's a great way to isolate him. If you create enough of these scenes, the friends won't want to come around. And then you can exert power and control over John O'Keefe all to yourself, without anyone weakening your position, saying, what are you doing with this woman? You can hear in Laura Sullivan's testimony that John O'Keefe told Laura Sullivan she's crazy. I don't believe Karen Reed is crazy. Just believe she has a dark personality. Let's revisit Laura Sullivan's testimony. So this gives us some idea, knowing that she spent Christmas alone. It was a hard candy Christmas that year for Karen Reed, 2021. It gives the Aruba context. So now they're going to Aruba, a trip that they booked in the summer. But things have totally deteriorated, due to Karen Reed's coercive control over John. And this is what let's take a listen to Laura Sullivan and what she says about this Aruba trip. So Laura Sullivan was the partner of John's friend in let's start from the beginning, in the force, who took his own life.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
And John O'Keefe was the godfather to her baby.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Laura Sullivan, Sullivan. And
where do you live?
Pembroke, Massachusetts.
And how long have you lived in Pembroke?
Almost 6 years.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Pembroke with?
I live with my boyfriend and our 3 children. 2 stepchildren that are with us half the time, and then my son, Ben.
And your son, how old is he?
He's 10.
I'm sorry.
10. Sorry.
Nope, that's fine. And your stepchildren, how old are they?
15 and 13.
Now, do you work, ma'am?
I do.
What do you do?
I work in human resources.
How long have you been doing that?
Just over 6 years.
Ma'am, if I could turn your attention to New Year's Eve of 2021 into New Year's Day 2022. Do you recall that time frame?
I do.
And do you recall where you were?
I was in Aruba.
And if you could explain to the jury sort of how often, was that a regular trip that you did around that time of year?
Yeah. We've been doing a trip like around that time for, I'd say, 5 or 6 years. This will be our 6th year, I believe.
And over the course of those 5 or 6 years that you've done that, when you say sort of we, how did that start and how was that expanded, if at all?
So we've been going, Josh and I have been going to Aruba for years. In 2021 post-COVID, we decided to bring our children. We had never gone with them before. And since it was post-COVID, a lot of people were kind of stir crazy. And a group of our friends jumped on board. And so we went from just the 5 of us going to approximately 60 people.
And as far as yourself and or the other people, how, is this all at one sort of facility, or how were the bookings?
So we all stayed at the Renaissance, which is in downtown, and we buy timeshares. So it was a timeshare resort where we would purchase weeks that people owned.
So Karen Reed and John O'Keefe would not have been that stir crazy, because Karen Reed had booked a trip where they went to Florida to visit Karen Reed's friend Ingrid and Bill Curtis. And they also they took the Kaylee and Patrick, the kids, and they went to Disney World. So it's curious to see how the way that trip was used by Karen Reed. Let me see if I can show you Innocence Fraud Watch's blog on this. So this would be, April 2021. So Florida was much more open than Massachusetts was as far as COVID rules and masking, etc. And it was during Innocence Fraud Watch writes, Karen Reed appears to have organized a trip to Florida for herself, John O'Keefe, and his niece and nephew, where COVID restrictions at the time appear to be more relaxed compared to Massachusetts. It was during this time, April 2021 trip, that Karen introduced John and the children to her friend John Silvera. John and Karen apparently grew up together, and he works offshore on an oil tanker. While in Florida, they also visit Disney World in Orlando, and it was during this trip that Karen appears to have introduced John to her best friends Ingrid and Bill Curtis. So these pictures, like of John and Bill Curtis, were used as evidence that John's friends were siding with Karen and backing Karen, when in fact Bill Curtis was always Karen's friends, and John O'Keefe had just met him on this trip to Florida. So you can see there's Bill Curtis, John O'Keefe there, and there's John Silvera, who donated quite a bit of money and was another person, in addition to Natalie Bernschneider-Wiki, who passed messages from Karen to Aiden Turtleboy Carney, helping Karen and direct how Aiden Carney should harass the witnesses in this case. In 2025, John Silvera appeared in an entertainment TV show by Fox Nation headed Karen Reed Killer or Convenient Outsider. I might watch that on Kick soon. I'll let you know when I do that. During his performance, John falsely stated that Karen went straight out of Bentley and went right to work for Fidelity. In reality, after graduating Bentley College in 2003, Karen had worked for Brown Brothers Harriman, followed by Sensata Technologies. So there's this period where Karen Reed's working in New York City. And she arrives in New York City in August 2021, which means just after her arrival, she would have been in New York City for 9/11. And that's a period that she never talks about, why she was in New York, not Boston, and what she was doing at Brown Brothers Harriman or Sensata Technologies. It's always that she worked for Fidelity right off the bat. So there's a reason, there's something Karen Reed, I would think, wouldn't want you to know about her time working at Brown Brothers Harriman in Sensata Technologies.
A peace plan for Gaza.
Hold on one second. Let me see if I can. So that's just a little background. Let's get back to her trip to Aruba. Their trip to Aruba, but they wouldn't have been stir crazy much at all. They'd just been out on a vacation in April.
And so if they weren't going for that year, we would buy a week. So we were able to get, I think it was something, close to 20 rooms for all of us to go for the same week.
And as far as the planning in regard to that year in particular, when did that planning process sort of begin?
It starts approximately a year in advance because the rooms go on sale almost immediately because people want to get rid of them. So I would say it was probably around January of 2021 that we booked our room for that year.
And once you had booked your room, as far as the family and friends group that you were talking about, how was that sort of put out to them, like through what means?
We would, I would post on Facebook, more rooms are available for Aruba if anybody was interested in going. So the timeshare owners would reach out to me directly. Is there anybody else who would want to go? And we would look for any interested either friends or what have you to join our trip.
And so at some point in time over the summer of 2021, say July or August or so, was there someone who, a friend of yours that reached out in regard to joining and possibly coming on the trip?
Yeah, I received a text message from John O'Keefe interested in learning more information about our trip.
And if you could describe to the jury sort of, how did you know John?
So this makes me think Karen saw this and got John to call because I guess John was on Facebook too, but according to Natalie Bernsteiner Wiki, this is obviously, I wouldn't know who saw it. Karen Reed studies Facebook like no other. And she had blocked John O'Keefe over a year before. So on that last day where they're text messaging before she reversed into him at speeds of up to 24 miles an hour with her foot 75% down on the gas pedal, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed is asking John O'Keefe to accept her friend request. And John O'Keefe said, "You blocked me more than a year ago."
I met John in May of 2013. I met him at a bar in South Boston he was with Pat Rogers at the time. Post meeting John, I started dating Pat, and my son's father is Pat Rogers. And
I could stop you there just
Yep.
a moment. So as far as John O'Keefe and your son's father, Pat Rogers, did you know or did you come to know sort of what they did for a living?
yeah, they were both Boston police officers.
And did you know sort of what the relationship was beyond co-workers of Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Rogers?
Yeah. They were best friends.
So at some point following that meeting in 2013, you began to date Mr. Rogers, is that right?
Correct.
And what happened?
So in July of 2013, I became pregnant. And in November of 2013, Pat committed.
And okay?
Yeah.
So there are text messages between Karen Reed and Aidan Carney where Karen Reed is referring to Laura Sullivan as a pig and saying she's grossly overweight. I mean, she's a very attractive woman. So I would think there would be some, just very cruel cruel, cruel, cruel words against Laura Sullivan. She said she's not friendly. She testified against me. So is the essence of the text message Karen Reed sent to Aidan Carney concerning Laura Sullivan.
Following that, how would you describe sort of your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, or how did it evolve?
So in November of 2013, I was on a work trip, and I had not had the best conversation with Pat. It was it just didn't feel right. And I called John and said, you need to go find him. I can't get a hold of him. He won't answer his phone. And so John left his nephew's birthday party and called a bunch of people on the way. And ultimately, Pat was found in the basement of his house. And John was there immediately following, but he was the one that found people to go find Pat. Immediately following that, John never really left my side, as a support system.
And at some point following that, you had your son.
Yeah.
And before or after that, at some point, did you have a conversation with Mr. O'Keefe in regard to your son?
It was his birthday, December of 2013, and we went to the Playwright, which is where we had all met. And I gave him a card and I asked him to be Ben's godfather, and he said yes.
And in relation to your son, was Mr. O'Keefe, was John involved in your son's life?
Yes, very much so.
And how so?
He was every birthday, Christmas. He was always in contact. He was the first person in my delivery room after I gave birth. He was a constant. He was a connection to Pat, and always making sure that Ben was taken care of, in the sense of being there to tell stories or what have you from his relationship with Pat.
That's interesting, because Brendan Kane says that the first person in his home after his daughter was born was John O'Keefe. So here she says he was the first person in their hospital room. What a special, it just shows you how much they all trusted John O'Keefe at these really intimate times. And that's a particularly vulnerable time too for a woman after a baby's born in a hospital room.
And through sort of his relationship with you and your son, Mr. O'Keefe also become familiar with your family as well?
Yeah. Yep.
And in regard to your family, was there some kind of term, or how would they refer to Mr. O'Keefe?
The Godfather. He was called the Godfather to almost everybody.
Now, ma'am, if I can turn your attention back to that summer of 2021, you received a text from Mr. O'Keefe, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And
So I'm sorry, you do have to say yes or no.
Oh, sorry, yes.
after you received that text, did you reach out to Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, I gave him a call because I was excited. I was immediately excited. I gave him a call, explained to him that we had a group of rooms. We were going with, I don't even know the number at that time that had, signed up to go. But it was a lot of kids. It was all of our friends, and that they would have a great time.
And from that, did he give you any sense or say anything about who from was it just himself or like who was coming along?
He had mentioned that it would be the kids, and he said Karen would be joining him as well.
And at that point, at some point subsequent to that, you knew him to be referring to Karen, correct?
Yes.
At that point, had you met Karen Reed? Did you know who that was?
I had not. I knew that they were dating, but I had never met Karen, no.
And in addition to himself, who would be Mr. O'Keefe, Ms. Reed, the defendant, and his niece and nephew, Patrick and Kayla?
Correct, yes.
And if you know, in relation to your son, as far as Mr. O'Keefe's nephew, Patrick, where are they in relation as far as ages?
They're like three years apart. 3 years apart.
Now,
Speaking of reaching out, we've just discovered this very highly significant fact that Karen Reed spent Christmas alone. Last Christmas, John O'Keefe was alive. And it really changes the fabricated narrative. If Laura Sullivan, Marietta Sullivan, Karen Reed's sister Elizabeth would like to reach out and talk to me behind the scenes and fill in some of the information that's not in the public domain, please reach out and write to me at robertaglass23@gmail.com. Also, Victoria Crisp, too. So Victoria Crisp was the woman who took Karen Reed as her +1 to John O'Keefe's sister's birthday, Kristen's birthday party. That's where they first met. Victoria Crisp would like to reach out. robertaglass23@gmail.com. There's so much of this story that has not been put in the public domain.
when you have that phone conversation with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, interest does he show as far as going through with it?
After, asking a couple questions, I could hear Karen in the background, and he put Karen on the phone, and that was the first time I had spoken to her. He basically said, just talk to her so you can answer her questions.
Do you recall what kind of questions they were or what it was about?
She was interested in the room setup, how many people could sleep in a room, and how the room is set up. You have a king-size bedroom, and then there's a kitchen area, and then there's a living room that has a pull-out couch. And they explained that it's a 4-person occupancy room, and you could get a roll-away bed as well.
And following that conversation, when was the next time, if at all, that you had any conversation with Mr. O'Keefe and or Ms. Reed in regard to the Aruba?
So during that conversation, Karen mentioned that she needed her own bathroom and she needed her own space, and that she wanted 2 rooms. And so I put them in contact with a woman that I knew had 2 rooms for them to, figure that piece out. I don't handle any of that. I put people in contact with whoever owns the rooms. I put them in contact with the woman who had the 2 rooms, and I know that they had, paid her relatively quickly. I mentioned to John that the rooms, I couldn't promise that the rooms would be next to each other, and they weren't. They were on opposite sides of the hotel, but they...
So another highly significant detail, that Karen Reed wanted her own room away from John O'Keefe. In this, so once again, this trip to Aruba, they left on December 30th. So it was over the New Year's. And when Karen Reed got back from Aruba, a week later, she was texting Brian Higgins, hey, it's the weed whacker. So she's already looking a week later after she gets back from Aruba, she's already looking to move on to a different relationship. So if John, Karen, and the children flew back from Aruba on the 5th of January, it was only a week later. So she texted Brian Higgins on the 12th of January. But we know they also left. There may be a few days. I may be a few days off. We know that they left early from this trip with the excuse that they wanted to make sure the kids got back to school. I mean, it's not obviously they made a trip to Aruba that I would think would accommodate the kids' school schedule, but that was the excuse they gave.
Got 2 rooms.
Or John O'Keefe gave.
And when you say opposite sides of the hotel, where do you know sort of where those rooms were in relation to each other and who stayed in which room?
So the pool and lobby is in the center, and then the hotel comes like this, and there are pool walkout rooms on the first floor of each. And Karen and John were on this side, and the kids were on this side, and they both had walkout rooms.
And as far as sort of front door to front door, do you know about how far away they were from each other?
I would say, steps wise, maybe 200. But the hotel is it's small enough, but it was separated by a lobby, the front entrance, the outside entrance.
Now, with regard to your arrival, when was it that you arrived in Aruba?
So the timeshare rooms run Friday to Friday. So we were booked for the 31st through the 7th. Josh's birthday is December 30th, so we went down as a family a day early. And we had friends who were already down there since Christmas. John's timeshare room woman reached out and said, hey, we're leaving early if you want to arrive early. So him, Karen, and the kids actually came down on the 30th as well. They were on the flight following us. And then the rest of the 60-ish people, however many were there, showed up on the 31st.
And so from that first day that you arrived there, as far as when you got there on the 30th, when was the first time that you saw John, or when was the first time that you saw anyone from that group?
It was, we were at the pool, so it was not long after they had landed. He texted me and said, we're here. And Ben and I jumped out of the pool and went to the lobby to see him. And then on the way back from the lobby, I saw somebody banging on the window on the left-hand side of the rooms, and I didn't know who it was. And then I saw Kaylee, and I was like, oh, well, that must be Karen.
And again, was this the first time that you had seen Karen face-to-face or met Ms. Reed?
Yes.
And just for clarity purposes, as far as Ms. Reed is concerned, do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
She's right there.
Does the record reflect identification of identified?
Okay.
Thank you. Now, after you see this person bang on the window and you recognize Kaylee, what happened?
She came out, she gave me a big hug, said, it's nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. I recognized you from pictures.
And following along from there, what happened then as far as the day was concerned?
So as I mentioned, it was Josh's birthday. We had already made plans to go out for dinner. Our friends who had been there since Christmas have a 17-year-old daughter who watched our children so we could go out for dinner. I mentioned it to John. I said, we'll just add you to the reservation. You can join us for dinner. The kids can stay with Chloe. And they said, absolutely. So we all went out for dinner that evening to Screaming Eagle.
And Screaming Eagle, where is that in relation to the hotel, the rents?
It's probably about a 15-ish minute cab ride.
And when you arrived there, what, if anything, do you recall about sort of the dinner or how it went?
So we were sitting outside on the patio. It was Karen, myself, our friend Laura. Across from Laura was her husband, Dave. Josh was in front of me, and John was in front of Karen.
And what, if anything, specific you recall about the dinner, or sort of what happened at dinner?
So we, the waiter came over. He started taking drink orders. Karen placed her order. I placed mine. Laura placed hers. Dave placed his, and then Josh ordered a dirty martini with blue cheese stuffed olives.
I'll allow it. I don't know where it's going, and you can move to strike unless you wanted to see me, Mr. Yannetti. Okay.
So, Ms. Sullivan, turning back to at the restaurants, the drinks that are ordered, people have what they have. And at the end of the evening, as far as the bill.
What the hell was that? David Yannetti did not want any mention of Josh's drink. Karen Reed made probably some rude comment about his dirty martini and his blue cheese stuffed olives. And Canoni agreed. And so you come back and Lolly's like, well, they had what they had. Karen had, you all have what you had. Let's not talk about that dirty martini with the blue cheese stuffed olives. I mean, but look at the way Canoni just catered to the defense. If you want to meet me in sidebar, let me hear every issue you have with this small story, a small piece of evidence.
Comes at some point, correct?
Correct.
And what, if anything, do you recall about that?
Karen had paid the bill prior to us receiving it.
And what, if any, reaction did you or anyone have in regard?
The entire table was kind of taken aback, said it wasn't necessary, wanted to Venmo or give cash or something along those lines. And she declined, saying that she was honored to be there and wanted to pay for it.
So this is one of Karen Reed's favorite things to do, is to make grandiose financial gestures. It's the way to have people indebted to her, exert power and control. Patricia Burns asks, Roberta, can we end with the dog expert song? I would say let's not end with it. Let's take a break and listen to it now. This is for Patricia Burns. I'll be right back.
Bored and retired, threw myself into a high-profile trial, thirsty for attention and admiration. I'm the best expert in the entire nation. Get paid to lie by the hour, making stuff up is my superpower. I see dog bites. I see dog bites. Just pay me and I'll tell you they are dog bites. Limp to the stand, decked out in polyester. Lay my lies on the court and let them fester. Puncture wounds in the shirt. Testified to a great deal, I'm certain. Hell, they'll say anything. It's the prosecution that's got the burden. I'm the best expert that's ever been. Who else can testify to a dog bite by a canine without a chin? Don't need evidence to state my claims. There's a lot of hounds in the world, one's got to be blamed. I'll do anything to get rich and get off killers. Pay me extra, I'll blame gorillas.
Oh, remember the time when we had hope that the O'Keefe family would get justice? Oh, every time I see justice for John O'Keefe, it makes me sad. This is really Karen Reed. I do not believe she's $50 million in debt. I don't believe she's in debt at all. Taterbug, glad you're back, Roberta. I think she's made a fortune on her with blood money on this crime. So, thank you, Tater. Back to Marietta, to Laura Sullivan, excuse me. And we'll get to Marietta Sullivan's testimony too today. Testimony about Aruba.
Turning your attention to the following day. What, if anything, do you recall about the next day being that would have been, I'm sorry, the 31st, is that correct?
Yes.
So turning your attention to December 31st, 2021. What, if anything, do you recall about that day in specific regard to Mr. O'Keefe and Mr.
John was very vocal on the 30th on how he just wanted to sit in the pool and watch the Alabama game.
And he was a pretty big Alabama fan, is that correct?
Yes.
And so over the course of that day, what, if any, interaction did you have with either, starting with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, interaction did you have with him?
I saw him in the pool.
So my understanding is why John O'Keefe rooted for Alabama was that the Patriots weren't all that great when he was growing up. So he picked Alabama, but I would love to know exactly why he picked Alabama. There had to be more than Alabama as a winning team.
I know he was sitting at the pool bar watching the game with Josh. I saw the kids. I recall seeing Karen. I don't remember if we spoke or not. But it was mostly in the pool because we were waiting for the rest of our friends to show up.
Now, amongst the
Really? That was the reason given. Tater, I don't know. You can listen to it. It had been notoriously winning. I'm not a football watcher. You can tell, Tater. But that was the reason given. I don't know. They were losing. So he went to college sports, I guess. Really? Are there lots of Alabama fans not from Bama? Good for you for keeping up with it, Tater. Can you imagine calling Laura Sullivan a pig? Like Karen Reed did? That pig is, in this picture, that pig is, standing in front of my beach bag. She calls her a pig. Lovely woman.
rest of your friends that show
I mean, I really liked her from this testimony. I don't know how everyone else is feeling.
do you have any siblings?
I do.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have two.
And brother or sister?
I have a younger brother and a younger sister,
And with reference to your younger sister, what's her name?
Marietta.
And how much younger than you is Marietta?
She's 10 years younger than me.
And was Marietta Sullivan, was she coming in on that day as well?
She was.
And do you recall about what time it was that she arrived or that she came to the hotel? When was the first time you saw her?
It's tough to remember, but I want to say everybody showed up on one of the first or second flights that came out of Boston. So I'd say she was there by 1 p.m.
And if you recall, what, if any, plans were there as far as dinner?
Yeah, I just think that anybody who testified against her, she makes it clear in the next text that Laura Sullivan testified against her, was going to be public enemy number one. So Jen McCabe, Carrie Roberts, were all disparaged and gone after Laura Sullivan, Etta Sullivan, anyone who didn't join her innocence fraud campaign was public enemy number one, and they will disparage your looks, go after you, harass you. I mean, Jim McCabe was voted best looking in high school, and they constantly go after her looks.
Was concerned on that evening in New Year's Eve.
So what we tend to do is book reservations, and if people are interested in joining, they can join us. And that night we had approximately 40 people going to have dinner on the beach at Moomba Beach. Around, I want to say it was like 7 o'clock. We had our reservations for.
And did Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, Ms. Reed, join you for dinner that evening?
They did not, no.
Now, let me take a step back just for a moment. As far as Ms. Reed was concerned, prior to your arrival in Aruba, did you have her phone number, or did you have any way of contacting her?
No.
And when was it that you got Ms. Reed's phone number?
John had added her and I and Chloe to a group text the night that we had gone out for dinner to make sure that we could all communicate with Chloe to make sure the kids were okay.
So you got her phone number in relation to watching kids, as far as Patrick and Kaylee and your children and everybody else?
Correct.
Now, if you recall, you go out to dinner, you think the reservation was about 7 or so. Do you recall about what time it was that you got back to the hotel?
I want to say it was around 9:30, 10 o'clock by the time my group got back. I know there was a couple different seatings. So we probably got back around like 9:30, 10 o'clock.
And as far as your group was concerned, your sister Marietta, was she within your group that went out to dinner?
Yes. Yep.
And beyond your younger sister Marietta, did you have other sort of immediate family with you on this trip as well?
My mother was with us as well.
And with regard to your sister Marietta and your mother, what, if anything, was there as far as where were each of them staying?
So they had their own room. I think it was a couple away from us on the 5th floor.
And is that the top floor as far as this hotel is concerned?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, once you arrived back from dinner, where was it that you and your group went?
We go to the pool area. The kids can swim. We ring in the new year at the pool bar, watching it on the TVs, and then watching the fireworks.
Now, when you came back to the hotel and you went at some point to the pool area, your sister Marietta, do you know where she went?
She actually, when we got back from dinner, she went up to her room with my mom and essentially put my mom to bed because she didn't want to be up anymore. But she went to go change as well.
Now, when you came down to the pool area, as far as Mr. O'Keefe and or Ms. Reed was concerned, did you see them in that area?
I saw John, I want to say around 10:30-ish. I don't know the exact time. It was definitely before midnight.
And where in relation to the hotel did you see him at 10:30?
He was standing behind me at the pool bar.
And at some point does your sister come out to the pool area after putting your mother to bed?
Yeah, so right before I saw John at the pool bar, I saw my sister. She came out and she was visibly upset.
And Your Honor, in regard, to the instruction that you had requested about this, maybe.
All right, thank you. So, jurors, you're about to hear testimony about certain conduct or behavior allegedly committed by Ms. Reed. Be mindful that the defendant is not charged with committing any crimes other than those charged within the indictments. The witness's testimony may not and indeed must not be considered by you as any evidence that the defendant has a bad character or as evidence that she has a propensity to commit the crimes with which she has been charged. You may not take the defendant's prior acts as a substitute for proof that the defendant committed the crimes charged here, but you may consider the acts solely on the limited issue of the state of mind of the defendant and the nature of her relationship with John O'Keefe as it might go to motive or intent. You may not consider this evidence for any other purpose. Specifically, you may not use it to conclude that if the defendant committed the act or acts, that she must also have committed the offenses with which she's charged. You can only use the evidence for the limited purpose of how it goes to the defendant's state of mind, the nature of her relationship with John O'Keefe, as it may go to motive. And just for the records,
You only can use this to motive. Like anyone would use this kind of evidence to as specific evidence of that she ran over him with her car and left him to die in a blizzard. These are the kind of ways that defense attorneys have changed our justice system, getting these kind of things read. They're completely unnecessary and ridiculous. If you have someone as stupid that using this kind of evidence as proof of that she hit him, but it does. I mean, when you're talking about motive, you have to look at. So, but you can look at it as evidence of a coercively controlling relationship. And partners who abuse often end up murdering their partner. The end of the road for a abusive relationship is murder. It doesn't always get that far. If you look at O.J. Simpson, same thing. He was stalking her, beating her. This was much more psychological abuse. That's at least been put into the public domain.
my findings are the same that I made at sidebar previously. So, go ahead, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Now, with regard to, at some point, your sister comes out to the pool area where you were, is that right?
Correct.
And do you know where Mr. O'Keefe was at that point?
I do not know.
And when your sister comes out to the pool area, what happened?
She said,
Yeah, that's sustained. I thought you were doing something else.
When your sister comes out to the pool area, how would you describe her demeanor when she comes out?
No, I'll allow that.
she was frustrated.
And at some point, did you have a conversation, without regard to what the conversation was, at some point, did you have a conversation with her about something that had just happened?
Yes.
Now, following that conversation with your sister, at some point subsequent to that, Mr. O'Keefe come back out to the pool area.
After I spoke with her, yes, he came out to the pool area.
And do you know about how long a period of time it was between the time that your sister came out to the pool area and Mr. O'Keefe came out to the pool area?
I mean, I would say approximately 20 minutes, but I don't really know exact timing.
Now, when Mr. O'Keefe came back out, did you have any conversation with him?
I did.
And can you describe that conversation?
All right, is this the instruction that you were talking about instead of the other one? All right, so jurors, I have another instruction for you. So you're about to hear evidence of statements made by John O'Keefe. Is that accurate now, Mr. Lally?
Yes.
All right. These statements are being admitted only for a limited purpose of establishing John O'Keefe's state of mind. You're not to consider this testimony as proof that the defendant has a bad character or propensity to commit crimes. The testimony of witnesses recounting conversations with Mr. O'Keefe can only be used as they go to the defendant's motive or intent on January 28th or 29th, and only if you find that the defendant was aware of Mr. O'Keefe's state of mind at the time of the crime and would be likely to respond to it. There need not be direct evidence that the defendant learned of Mr. O'Keefe's state of mind, so long as you reasonably can infer from the evidence that she did learn of it. Okay, Mr. Lally.
This is subject to our objection.
Yes, yep.
Thank you. So, Ms. Sullivan, if I could take you back again. So Mr. O'Keefe comes out, you have a conversation with him. Can you describe to the jury what that conversation was about?
I turned around and I was pretty shocked to see him. I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Nothing." I said, "Did Etta and Karen have words?" And he said, "I don't know." And I said, well, that's not what Etta said. And I asked him if everything was okay. And at that time, his phone was lighting up, and it looked like calls and texts. And it said Karen on his phone.
After you make that observation, what is it you say to John?
So that's interesting that John's responding, I don't know, when he does know, and he's covering up Karen's abusive behavior. And Laura Sullivan knows him so well that she's saying, oh, well, I heard from Etta that they did have words. And as this is going on, Karen Reed, just like she did on the day of 28th, she's texting him, calling him, texting him, calling him, not respecting his boundaries.
I asked him if he needed to take it, and he said, yes, she's crazy. I got to take care of this.
Was that the last time that you saw him on New Year's Eve?
It is.
To give that excuse, she's crazy, is a real minimization of her behavior, because crazy people can't be responsible for their behavior because they're out of their mind. I don't believe Karen Reed is or was out of her mind. If anything, I believe she's a calculating, cunning manipulator. Again, John will keep putting the best face on it. She's crazy.
Now, turning your attention to the following day, New Year's Day, did you see either Mr. O'Keefe or Miss Reed at all on that day?
I did not. I saw the children, but we didn't see them that day, no.
Now, turning your attention to the following day, being January 2nd, what was sort of the plan as far as what was going on that?
Our hotel has a private island. The hotel that we stay at has a private island, and we rented all 8 of the cabanas between the 60 of us that were there. And when the cabanas went on sale, I had reached out to John and asked him if he wanted me to get him one. And he said, sure. So I booked one for him, and he paid me for that cabana. So we all went out that morning. And it was probably around, 10 o'clock in the morning, and they weren't there yet. And so I sent him a text and I said, are you coming, or do you want me to sell this cabana? Because there was other, couples there. At least he could have made, the money back. And he asked me who was there. And I said, everybody. And I named off a couple names. I'm not really sure. But I said, everybody's here.
And when you said that, how did Mr. O'Keefe respond?
He said, well, apparently I made out with your sister the other night, according to Karen.
Now, is that the first time that you had heard that?
Yes.
So fair to say whatever you had heard from your sister on December 31st was not that?
Objection. No, I'll allow that.
Correct.
And what was your reaction when Mr. O'Keefe told you?
Objection. I'll allow it.
I was shocked. I immediately found my sister and said, did you make out with John?
Objection. Sustained.
Now, when you went to talk to your sister, who was it that your sister was with when you went to talk to her about that?
I don't recall who was standing near her. Maybe my mom. I don't know.
As far as your sister was concerned at that time, was she dating someone?
Yes,
And the person that she was dating, was that person on the trip as well?
he was. Yes,
And was that person that she was dating that was on the trip as well? Were they at the cabanas on that day that you were there?
they were. Yes.
Now, as far as you have some conversation in regard to your sister, and then at some point you go back and have further conversation with Mr. O'Keefe.
Yeah, I said I texted him back. I said I just talked to Etta. She said absolutely not. That did not happen.
Objection.
That's sustained. I'll strike that.
Now, at some point after that exchange, did Mr. O'Keefe and/or Ms. Reed and/or the kids come out to the cabana area?
They did. Yes.
And at any point, how would you describe sort of how Mr. O'Keefe and or Miss Reed was acting when they came out to the cabana?
Karen immediately went in the water. I just recall her being like floating in the ocean for a good chunk of the day. John was hopping around from the different cabanas talking to people. One of my favorite pictures of him is with my son from that day.
Did you have any conversation with Mr. O'Keefe once he came out to the cabana?
No, we kind of just kept it light. We didn't really talk about anything that had happened. I was just kind of trying to stay out of it for now.
And following sort of the cabana situation or the cabana day, what happened then?
Suppose that day, I think I saw John one other time. I saw him in the pool. It was the one time that him and I were alone. He didn't seem like he was himself.
I'll allow it.
He seemed distant, and I asked him if he was okay. And he kind of just, shrugged it off. And I said, are you happy? And he kind of, just rolled his eyes and shrugged it off. And I said, well, something along the lines of life is too short to not be happy. And he goes, well, Laura, it is what it is. And I did ask him if he wanted to talk about it. I said, do you want to talk about it? And he's like, not really.
So following that exchange in the pool area, when was the next time that you saw them?
I had spoken to him. We all went on the Jolly Pirate. We had all bought tickets in advance. So we had basically rented the whole boat for everybody to go. We had bought 4 tickets, and we had gotten a bus from our hotel. And he didn't show up for the bus and wasn't answering my calls or my texts. And then we finally got down to where the boat was. The boat was about to leave, and he messaged me. He's like, not going to make it. The kids slept late. And so I didn't think anything of it. Then after that,
How much do you want to bet they're arguing in their hotel room? We heard about arguments from the children during this trip to Aruba. So again, cover it up, cover it up. But we know that when in January, before he was murdered, he was asking Karen Reed to move out, and she wouldn't move out, and telling Karen that the relationship had run its course. So was Karen Reed starting to plot a way to punish him and discard him in the most hurtful way possible? Well, playing up, you see in the text messages, she's playing up this role, pretending to desperately want to hold on to the relationship. Just tell me if you're not into it anymore. When in reality, she had moved on to Brian Higgins. But is this when she started to think about a plan where she could hurt John in a way where she had some deniability, and she could call it an accident, like reversing into him, as a way to teach John a lesson? She's starting to think these things up in January. If you have a boyfriend who doesn't wear a coat, I would think it would come into your mind more than once. If he ever gets stranded out in the cold in a way that he can't move, it's going to be very bad for him. That will kill him. When you're living in this area of the world, it's just cold, it gets very cold. And John's telling her in those text messages on the 28th that there's a big storm coming. No one's going anywhere. Does Karen Reed see this as the moment to reverse into it. And we know that they fought that night, and she admits to being angry with him that night. And they fought all through the day via text messages.
They saw him and Karen the night before they left. And they ended up leaving a day or two early so that the kids could get back to school.
And when you saw them, where was that in relation to?
Right outside the hotel.
But Laura Sullivan knows that's not the real reason. The kids would have gotten back to school. They left at the time that they were planning. So what we know is they left early. That the trip was so hellish that they left early. Let's hear about the trip from her sister, her younger sister, Marietta's point of view. This is much shorter testimony. Take a listen. Hold on one second. Let me just rearrange this. Here we go.
You came back down, and by down, I mean, do you recall where you were staying in the hotel?
Yep, so we were on the 4th floor of the hotel, so I took the elevator up and then I took it back down to the lobby.
And at that point in time, when you're getting back from dinner and going up to the room and coming back down, were you aware of where Mr. O'Keefe and his niece and nephew were staying?
And yeah, I knew where they were staying, yes, room-wise, yep.
And where was that in relation to the lobby?
1st floor,
So lobby's on the 1st floor, their rooms are on the 1st floor.
yes.
So when the elevator gets down to the lobby level, you get out. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And what if any?
So you have to say, okay.
You just have to answer yes or no.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. So the elevator gets sent down to the lobby. You walk out. Who, if anyone, do you see when you come out?
So when the elevator opens up, the first person I saw was the attendant standing behind the desk. I didn't see anybody else in the lobby with me until I stepped out. When I stepped out, I looked to my left and I saw Johnny coming in through the first set of outside doors.
Now, as far as Mr. O'Keefe was concerned, was there any other sort of term that you would use to refer to him?
Johnny or Godfather.
And, Your Honor, I think this may be appropriate.
All right, so folks, I'm going to say again that first instruction I gave you with the last witness, that you're about to hear testimony about certain conduct or behavior allegedly committed by the defendant. Ms. Reed is not charged with committing any crimes other than those charged within the indictment. So this witness's testimony may not and must not be considered by you as any evidence that the defendant has a bad character or is
Whoever said in the comment section, don't take her bad behavior as evidence of a bad character. Repeatedly, it's so, it goes against, a logical, rational mind. How do we determine if someone has a bad character? Flip a coin? Magic 8-ball? I mean, these are things that defense attorneys have pushed to get in, these kind of instructions. Just to give, a little bit of favoritism to their client. A little bit more, to push the scales in their favor.
evidence that she may have a propensity to commit the crimes with which she's been charged. You may not take the defendant's prior acts that you'll hear about as a substitute for proof that the defendant committed the crimes charged here. But you may consider the act solely on the limited issue of the defendant's state of mind and the nature of her relationship with John O'Keefe as it might go to motive or intent. You may not consider this evidence for any other purpose. Specifically, you may not use it to conclude that if the defendant committed these acts, that she must also have committed the offenses with which she's been charged. You can only use the evidence for the limited purpose of how it goes to the defendant's state of mind, motive, and the nature of her relationship with John O'Keefe. And for the same findings that I made at sidebar.
Proceed, John?
Yes.
Okay. So you walk out of the elevator, you're by yourself, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you see Mr. O'Keefe, could you...
Sinclair Reed makes a good point, makes a good comment here. Example, she's kicked puppies in the past and has dog kicking shoes, but she didn't kick this dog. Very smart comment.
See where Mr. O'Keefe was in relation to the lobby or where he was coming from?
He was coming from the outside doors into the lobby,
Is that where the pool bar is located?
opposite side.
Opposite.
Yes.
And when you see him come in, who, if anyone, did you see with him initially?
Nobody with him.
And what, if anything, was he doing or how was he acting sort of when he came?
So he sort of stumbled in. I came out of the elevator and my initial response to him was, "Whoa, you okay?" I actually said, "Whoa, Godfather, are you okay?" But yeah, he was stumbling into the lobby.
And did you go over to him at that point?
I did. I went up to him and I gave him a hug.
And what happened then?
I pulled back. He was glassy-eyed, looking above me. We never made eye contact. He was looking above me. It looked like he was looking for someone. I asked him, "Where are you going?" assuming that he would be coming to the pool bar to meet us. He kept looking around and he indicated that he was going that way and pointed toward a bank of rooms to our right. And I said, "Well, you should go that way." And I stepped back and I guided him toward the area that he was going.
Now, as far as the bank of rooms to the right, you indicated that you were familiar or aware of where Mr. O'Keefe was and where the children were, is that correct?
I know they were on the first floor. I'm not 100% positive as to where exactly their rooms were.
And if you know, did you know whether or not that Mr. O'Keefe was staying in the same room as Patrick and Kaylee at that point?
I didn't know if they were staying in the same room or not, no.
So you point him in that direction, and what happened?
So I pointed in that direction. He walked off. I continued out to the pool bar when I heard very loudly his name screamed across the lobby, very angrily, and it made me stop in my tracks.
And when you stop in your tracks, what happened then?
I started to turn around to come back in. So once you go out to the pool bar, you kind of go around a corner and you go out of view. So I turned around to go back in. As I'm going back in, I hear someone yell, "Who the fuck was that?" And as I come around the corner, I see Mr. O'Keefe walking toward a woman. And he said, excuse me. He said, "Calm down, that's Laura's little sister."
And what happened then?
When I came back around the corner, I said, after Mr. O'Keefe said, "Calm down, that's Laura's little sister," I said, "Hi, nice to meet you." That's when Miss Reed's head snapped up, and she very loudly told me to go fuck myself across the lobby. And I said, "Yeah, fuck you too," and walked away.
And just to be clear, when you say Miss Reed, this is someone that you became familiar with as the trip went along?
This was my first interaction with her. I had never been fully introduced to her at all. I just had seen her sitting by the side of the pool when I had been talking to Johnny earlier in the day.
And the person you know to be Miss Reed, do you see her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just describe as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
Sure, she's in a black and white checkered blazer. She's 2 people in from you.
Does that record reflect identification defended by the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. As far as Ms. Reed was concerned, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the defendants beyond the yelling? What, if anything, did you observe as far as her demeanor or how she was acting at the time that this interaction was going on?
She was just very loud. She very, energetically screamed for me to go fuck myself. She was waving her hands. Johnny was trying to calm her down. And after I said, "Yeah, fuck you too," I went out to the pool bar, so I didn't see much after that.
And could you hear anything as far as when you're walking out to the pool bar, as far as any other conversation between the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe?
Not after that first time, no.
You go back to you go out to the pool bar, and who, if anyone, did you talk to?
I went straight up to my older sister, Laura, who was out to dinner with the couple the night before. And I said,
I'll allow this, Bob.
I went up to her and I looked at her and I said, "John O'Keefe's girlfriend?" And she looked at me and said, "Karen?" And I said, "Yeah, you guys like her?" She said, "Yeah, she's okay." And I said, "Well, she sucks."
Now, following that,
I gotta work that into the opening. You guys know Karen Reed? She sucks. She sucks. Just the way that she says it. Can we watch it again? It's so perfect. You guys know her? You like her? Oh, yeah, she's all right. She's all right. Well, she sucks.
And I said, well, she sucks.
Wait. We got to get to the back. We got to get to the way she went.
His girlfriend. And she looked at me and said, Karen. And I said, yeah, you guys like her? She said, yeah, she's okay. And I said, well, she sucks.
Now, following that, that particular, at any point in time later in that evening, did you see either Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed later on that evening?
I did not see them, no.
And when was the next time that you did see them?
I saw them briefly on the 2nd, which was the day that we rented cabanas on the island.
And when you say you briefly saw them, about, can you describe it?
So we had all rented the cabanas. Each family had one or they were sharing one. I was sharing one with my family down at the end. We got about halfway through the day and realized that their family cabana was still empty. So I saw them about halfway through the day when they did come to the cabana, and I briefly saw Miss Reed and Mr. O'Keefe at the pool, the island bar, that same day, but there was no conversation.
Now, with regard to Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, at some point in time on that day of the cabanas, what, if any, conversation did you have with your sister regarding that?
So my...
Objection.
I don't know what this is. I'll see it sidebar quickly.
Ms. Sullivan, with regard to the day of the cabanas, did you have some conversation with your sister Laura in regard to Mr. O'Keefe?
So it looks like Karen Reed was exuberant that she got whatever Inetti wanted out there.
I did.
And what, if anything, did your sister Laura tell you she had learned from Mr. O'Keefe?
So my sister pulled me aside from everybody and asked if the night that I got into the altercation with Miss Reed in the lobby, if I was making out with Mr. O'Keefe.
How did you respond?
That I absolutely was not.
And when you say absolutely was not, beyond the fact that it didn't occur, why would that not occur?
I'll allow it.
He was family. He was my older brother. For all intents and purposes, it just never would have happened between us.
And you expressed that to your sister, is that correct?
I did, yes.
Now, as far as the remainder of the trip was concerned, starting with the defendant, Ms. Reed, what, if any, other interaction did you have with her?
None.
And as far as Mr. O'Keefe was concerned, what, if any, further interaction did you have with him?
None. That was it.
And was that normal or as far as Mr. O'Keefe was concerned? Objection.
I'll allow it.
That, as far as I knew Johnny, that wasn't normal. He would always come up to us, up to our family, try to be around my nephew, his godchild, and he was always the life of the party and wanted to be around his family and his friends.
And following that trip in Aruba, did you see Mr. O'Keefe again?
I did not.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Giannetti.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Sullivan.
Good afternoon.
Fair to say that you were not at the Waterfall Bar and Grill on January 28th?
I wasn't at the Waterfall Bar and Grill, but I do know, and I wasn't there when Karen Reed put her foot 75% down on the gas pedal and clipped John with her car. She was going up to speeds of 24 miles an hour. I wasn't there either, but I do know that Karen Reed sucks. I do know that she's a sucky person, a murderous psychopath who was isolating John O'Keefe from his friends and family. Oh, his friends, excuse me, not his family, his friends. Don't know about his family. We don't even know enough. I mean, so much of this narrative has been concocted by Karen Reed. So when I say that it is jaw-dropping that she spent the Christmas alone, it's jaw-dropping. It's a big change in the narrative that everything was great and these fights were some kind of normal fights among couples. And that Karen Reed and John were so loving towards each other that night. This is the narrative that she's put out. No one knows anything about Karen Reed's past, her boyfriends, her life in New York. Her friends. I mean, she's a total mystery. And when Brendan Kane said he went out, met her at the hockey game, she asked tons of questions of him and his wife. But when it came time to answering questions about herself, she was vague. And there's these rumors that she set her ex-boyfriend's car on fire and held a knife to another boyfriend's neck. But they're just rumors. Where's the proof of that?
2022 in Canton.
I was not.
You were not at 34 Fairview Road in Canton on January 29th, correct?
Was not.
Yeah.
But I do know that Karen Reed is what you get from this is that John was suffering and really insisting on suffering in silence as Karen Reed exerted power and control over him and abused him. I think these two testimonies are such good examples of it. He wasn't himself. He didn't want to open up. He stayed away from our family where he would have wanted to be near us. He doesn't want to get any more, get into any more fights with Karen. So he's staying away from people that Karen might start fights about. So here's this isolation. I will return to Christmas Eve. There's a lot more to say about Christmas Eve and why Karen Reed spent Christmas alone. I will return to it. Again, if Victoria Chris, Marietta Sullivan, Laura Sullivan, Karen Reed's sister Elizabeth would like to reach out to me, robertaglass23@gmail. Let's get some of this information out in the public domain. You can just speak to me confidentially. I'm not asking for an interview. I'm just asking to try to fill in some of these blanks and get a narrative of what really happened, a truthful narrative, instead of the concocted fantasy narrative that Karen Reed has put into the public domain. That is what I have for today. Wednesday, Tom Murtati, civil lawyer, fantastic civil lawyers coming on, talk about the civil case. Karen Reed's lawyer, Damon Selgutson, her South African lawyer, says they indeed are going to file a motion to add multiple parties in. So Karen Reed will be both a defendant and a plaintiff, meaning she'll be a defendant in the O'Keefe's wrongful death civil suit and a plaintiff. She wants to be a plaintiff and a defendant. She herself sues the police, Jen McCabe, and a whole host of people as long as your arm. Going to be talking about that with Tom Murtati on Wednesday, making sense of the civil suit, and going to be asking him about his chances for success with that motion. It certainly would be highly, highly unusual if the judge allowed it. This is a much better judge in the civil case already. It's making better rulings than Ganoni already. So let's hope that this stays. Thanks so much for listening. Very nice to see all of you again. I missed you all. I'll be back tomorrow at 6. Have a great night, everybody.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, gin, like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown.